I think the Radioactive Palette by Melt Cosmetics is beautiful. If you want to find out why I'm not going to buy it, then stick around. Hi there, it's Hélène, and yes, I am here to explain why. First off, I love the Radioactive Palette by Melt Cosmetics, and secondly, why I'm not going to get it. First off, the Neon Stack from Melt Cosmetics was the stack from the company that I really, really wanted, coveted, looked for big time ever since it came out. And I never purchased it because Melt was kind of elusive, hard to get, expensive to get for Canadian. And so it was always just on my wish list and nothing more. And then I heard Melt Cosmetics coming to Sephora. So then all of a sudden it was more available. And then they came out with the Radioactive Palette, which consists of a number of the colors in the original, I believe it was called the Neon Stack. And I went to Sephora. I don't go often to Sephora, but I had a chance to swatch it. I was with a girlfriend of mine, and I'm looking at the palette and start to swatch it, and I'm going, these colors look awfully familiar. And I'm looking at my arm as I'm swatching, and I keep going back and forth, and I'm thinking, I must be dreaming. But it left me with a nagging feeling, and I think that if I hadn't had that nagging feeling, I may well have picked up that palette right in store. Let me explain what happened in this little brain of mine. I had seen those shadows before, and I had seen those shadows before recently. And that was recently because I had seen them in my own collection. I want to swatch them for you on my arm, the ones that I have that are a match, and I want you to tell me with a picture of the Radioactive Palette right here, I want you to tell me whether you think that I'm onto something or not. Here are the first swatches for you. So we have that hot pink, we have that neon orange, we have that neat yellow color, we have a beautiful green, and the fingers, and I'm going to run through them one more time. Here we go. And all of these dupes are coming from the same duping or same palette that I'm using to dupe the Radioactive palette. So there are the 4 shadows and the fingers. I'm going to wipe my fingers off and go into the other colors. I am back and I have just swatched the last 4, so let's get into it. It's so hard not to give you names. I'm always giving names when I'm swatching. All right, those are the 4 first pass, and here are the fingers, and I'm going to go in one more time. The first blue, and then we've got a turquoise-ish kind of color, aqua turquoise, I guess. Same difference. Purple, and then this last kind of iridescent pink at the end. There we go. Now this one is not a match, I understand that, but I wanted to put in a total of 8 colors anyway. You may already have recognized these shadows. And here are the fingers. They're just beautiful. Okay, now I might have another one for this last shadow to match the Melt Cosmetics Radioactive. I'm going to add one more swatch and then we will talk about the whole thing. I just realized I didn't swatch this right in front of you, but I think you can trust the fact that I just did this swatch, and here's my finger. So I went over it twice, and so this is the last one. Okay, let's backtrack for a second. I told you I was at Sephora and I did swatches. Now I did the swatches on my hand, but not that different. I was building them up and making sure to look at them carefully. I'm just going to go over the green one more time with a bigger finger because it really looks like it got kind of left out in the cold here for a sec. It's so small with the pinky. Okay, I think that's better. Okay, so here are all of the swatches. So I'm swatching this palette and I'm looking at the colors and I'm swatching and I'm looking at the colors, and like I said, I have this palette. And I do have this palette. I have 7, if not 8 of the shadows, and in the case of the one set of colors, 3 more. And the palette I'm talking about is the Electric Palette by Urban Decay. Now I realize it's not available anymore, but I do have it in my collection, which to me means I have the Melt Cosmetics Radioactive Palette. Let me explain. This one is Savage in the Electric Palette. The next one is Slow Burn, Thrash, Freak, Gonzo, Fringe, Urban. So that is where it stops. Now I put Jilted because it is a lighter color than the purple, but that is kind of a stretch. So 7 of the 8 colors in the Radioactive, I feel like I have already, or have something close enough. Now comes in the last shade. And the last shade is kind of a lilac pastel in the Radioactive palette. This is a shade in the Pastel Goth called Dope. So if you cover this one up and you look at the colors, that is, in essence, for all intents and purposes, the Melt Radioactive palette. I have an almost perfect dupe, pretty believable dupe in my collection for 6 of the 7 shadows, and then a pretty reasonable dupe for that last shadow. And all I did was pair these 2 palettes together to help me create that final look. Let me just bring it close so you can see all the colors. That's it. That is the palette. And I benefit from some additional colors as well. So if you have a chance to find the Electric palette, I tell you, if that Melt stack or palette really looks good to you and somebody wants to give you their Electric palette, take it right away. So the extra shadows that we have here are Jilted, Chaos, and then this beautiful silver at the bottom. I never remember the name, Revolt. So yeah, I feel so lucky to have the colors that I was coveting when I was looking at that Melt Cosmetics palette online. That Radioactive palette was calling to me so loudly, and this experience just reinforces for me how important it is for me to shop my stash. In this case, something told me I had everything already, but I wasn't 100% sure. I had to go back and check. That's the optimal situation. What I have to remember is if there is a palette nagging at me, I need to go and shop my stash and actively look for dupes. That is definitely more intensive. But this does two things. Number one, if I find dupes, it saves me money. If I really, really want the palette, it saves me money. And the second one is, if I don't find reasonable dupes, if I really scour my collection, I can ask myself, do I really, really want this palette and why? And then give myself permission to go out and purchase it because I'm satisfied that I don't have it already. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, I will put a caveat to that, and that is, in some cases, you have a palette that speaks to you for different reasons. I have picked up a palette that had more to do with it being related to a specific event, where the packaging, the palette itself was, the essence of the value was as much in the packaging as it was in the shadows. To me, that's a special situation, a different situation, and I understand that very, very well. If it is just for the color story, as was the case with this one, what an awesome thing to save myself $60 by finding the dupe in my own collection, and with only 2 palettes and the second palette for just 1 shadow. It was a very, very quick fix and saved me a whole whack of cash, and if anything, makes me even happier for what I already have in my collection. So I wanted to share that little epiphany with you and how I went about it. And you could substitute any palette for the one that I ended up kind of obsessing over and being able to solve the problem on my own without taking my wallet out of my purse. And yeah, I think it's a great case study in the power of shopping our stash. That's where I'll end it. Thank you so much for watching this video. I appreciate it every single time. I would love to hear if you have had a similar epiphany in your own collection. Please let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it every time, and I do look forward to seeing you in the next video. But for now, take care.